It's a very good evening and thank you for being a part of our network tonight. My name is Siphumelele Zundi. It's the last Sunday of 2014 and we're looking back at the year that was. Tonight we'll find out a bit about e-commerce in Kenya. We'll check on education initiatives that are improving technology skills in Africa. We'll also find out about initiatives to roll out public Wi-Fi in South Africa. We are live. You can find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. We're on News Network at sabc.co.za or on email. Let's find out how 2014 was in technology in Africa. 2014 proved to be a rather eventful year in the tech world. A number of tech expos, such as the Rage Gaming Expo and AfricaCom, had the digital community buzzing. Producer Lebosi Jaga gives us a wrap of 2014 expos.
Just like every year, the tech world was abuzz with expos taking place all over the country. Only this year, exhibitors brought in their A game to impress expo goers.
Gaming is good. It brings the kids into a good, actually keeps them intact and they don't go out of grade. They're actually all together.
Well, since the world is moving forward so far, it's fast in technology, well, we don't want to be left behind.
Wearable devices, 3D printers and cloud computing were among the most talked about topics in the digital space in 2014. Organizers of these events took to work to ensure that tech lovers have a filled time.
It's absolutely awesome. You know, we had this dream, this idea, this vision that we could put together a technology event that caters for the consumer and for business and for public sector in one place, because this is how technology is driving the interest of all of these people in the same kind of issues.
Every single stand is different from the year before. We never ever have the same games, the same technology, the same toys, the same anything on the show. And that's why people love coming here, because every single year there's something, there's always something completely different.
Yes.
We got to try on fancy dresses, using virtual wardrobes at the My World of Tomorrow Expo, and played video games at the Rage Gaming Expo.
We love Rage! Must have Rage!
And even got lost in the maze of one of Africa's biggest technology showcases, AfricaCom, held in Cape Town. Now an expo is not complete without innovators showing off their latest creations.
We manufacture a mobile point of sales terminal, and what it's used for is used to sell things like electricity, airtime, and your satellite TV, except in the informal sector. So think about your rural areas, your farms, your mines, and your township type environments.
I developed a couple. So the one's a Giza insurance app. So when your Giza is malfunctioning or you want to check the warranty or anything about it, you just scan the QR code and it'll give some information about your Giza and then about the plumber who installed that Giza.
Companies also use 2014 expos as platform to launch their new devices.
Now is first of all that we are launching new smartphones, new mobile phones to Africa.
I, for one, didn't hesitate to take a selfie with this Huawei smartphone. 2014 proved to be a rather eventful year for the tech world. Hopefully, 2015 will be more spectacular.
Apologies for bad sound on parts of that clip. The year saw a scramble by government departments, cities and technology companies to bring free Wi-Fi to many regions of the country, including the rural areas. Next, Zile Kaswani reminds us how Network reported on some of the exciting developments in bringing free and fast wireless internet access to the nation.
2014 saw free Wi-Fi reach more public spaces, schools, remote areas, and even vending machines. We even saw a plan to issue data in the proximity of the underutilized Telkom public phone booths. This, as an overwhelming majority of South Africans are now making calls on their mobile phones.
The idea, which is in its infancy, is to say we've got the infrastructure, we've got cables going to that payphone, and the next phase of connectivity is data rather than voice telephony.
The global soft drinks giant Coca-Cola also rolled out a pilot of free Wi-Fi around its vending machines. The first phase was introduced in the world-renowned village of Qunu in the Eastern Cape. But perhaps the most successful rollout of free Wi-Fi in public spaces was in the city of Tshwane. This year, the capital city and Project Isizwe teamed up to provide residents with free Wi-Fi in certain zones, including Church Square. And in the last quarter of the year, the partnership enhanced the lure of free internet services with a new video-on-demand service. Most of these services are provided in major townships around the city and the CBD. And most crucial is that most of the Wi-Fi hotspots are located close to schools, meaning learners in under-resourced areas can also tap into the service.
We are able to access the information through the internet, especially learners. We bring them in the lab so that maybe if they have work to do, maybe a task, they've been given a task.
The capital city has certainly proven to take the lead role in bridging the worrying digital divide in the country.
We're very privileged and honored to be a part of the vision that actually the city of Tshwane actually holds very close. They have a smart city structure and plans, and they're actually enabling it through one of the initiatives being free Wi-Fi. And we were very fortunate in that they selected Project Isizwe as a preferred partner to deliver on the mandate of provisioning open public space Wi-Fi throughout the city of Tshwane.
While 2014 ushered in a much welcomed acceleration of free Wi-Fi in public spaces across South Africa, the challenge of fast and competitive broadband distribution remains. And this will undoubtedly continue well into 2015.
The most important thing at the moment in terms of our wireless broadband is the department and our regulator, ICASA, need to make something happen to release spectrum, precious spectrum that's needed to roll out long-term evolution services, really fast wireless broadband.
There's already evidence that competition in the broadband industry is to intensify. In June, Nomosphere, which is the largest Wi-Fi carrier in France, announced it had chosen South Africa to be its first overseas market to operate in. Such entrance into the market will help reduce the perceived monopoly of the giant data providers already operating in the country. And in time, this can only benefit the consumer in the country's effort to close the digital divide.
A story we've heard repeatedly this year is on the huge shortage of people with relevant technology skills in South Africa. This happens as the country also experiences a big youth unemployment rate. There are groups and organizations that have decided to do something about this. They've created education initiatives that will help young people with relevant IT skills. We paid some of them a visit this year. Here in Braamfontein, in the center of Johannesburg, a group of young people graduated with various skills from a program called Digify.
I have learned a lot from just media buying, Google AdWords, Google Analytics. I've learned a whole lot more about the digital space.
We've learned the whole scope, basically, of digital, from the softer skills like social media to more coding and programming, like actually coding.
Digify is a free program that was started by Levity Africa. It offers technology skills for free. This is to help fight the skills shortage in the sector in the country. Another such program is offered by government and South Africa's largest mobile phone network provider, Vodacom. They identify young Pretorians who need IT skills and train them. Government says it provides skills identified as a huge need.
The 21st century economy and going forward, the economy will largely be driven by technical skills. If you look at the penetration of technology into our economy, it's still very limited. And the potential, therefore, to grow that space, to grow the economy is huge.
Once done, the young people can then decide whether they want to start their own initiatives or look for employment. In Saibono, in Newtown, in the center of Johannesburg, there's an education initiative of a different kind. It offers various skills to school pupils from the age of 10 to the age of 18. 11-year-old Sfiso Nkabinde spends most of his afternoons here and already calls himself a computer programmer.
You can create applications that you want. You can also create websites.
At Saibono, mentors would help children in their various areas of interest.
Could be music, it could be graphic design, it could be web development, it could be programming, it could be robotics.
While this is a way to keep children who live in the CBD out of trouble, it also offers them a rare opportunity that many young people have to pay for. Microsoft teamed up with the University of Limpopo and the Council for Scientific Research, or CSIR, in a pilot project to use TV white spaces for cheap internet access. Rural communities in the University of Limpopo area can use these white spaces. 5 schools will also benefit from the project.
This is really about enabling those communities to leverage the power of technology to help themselves, to lift themselves out of the poverty situations that they are finding themselves in today.
The cheap internet access provided here brings people in the area to the current fast information era. After the break, we'll take a look at some of the mobile phones that launched in South Africa this year. It's SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. Stay with us.
Our new waterproof smartphone takes superior photos even in low light. Has PlayStation 4 remote play and up to 2 days battery life. Don't settle for good, demand great. The new Sony Xperia Z3 series.
News network at sabc.co.za and email. Welcome back. Some people literally live on their smartphones, whether taking notes, using the diary, texting or on WhatsApp, or spending time in social media. As a result of this, South Africa's smartphone market is constantly growing. The country has also become an important market for companies that want to launch their mobile phone brands. Here are some smartphones that were released in South Africa in 2014.
As Huawei is going full throttle to promote the Chinese brand as a high-end product, it launched its new signature phone in June, South Africa this year. Huawei is the most popular mobile brand in its home territory, China, but things haven't been as easy in the rest of the world. This because many seem to think Chinese tech brands are cheap knockoffs. The P7 has a glass back panel and comes in at about 7,000 Rand in the South African market.
If, however, you do compare to some of the competitors in the market, I think we, while being competitive from a spec perspective, we are in the region of 30% cheaper.
LG launched the 5.5-inch screen LG G3 in 2014. On realizing that we are now in the selfie generation, it decided to focus a bit on the type of camera on the phone.
We will have laser autofocus that allows you to basically focus on a picture within 276 milliseconds. As quickly as that, the phone has focused and you walk away with brilliant pictures.
We also saw the launch of the iPhone 6 this year.
We've got to remember that we're talking about devices here that Apple sold 10 million devices, which was a record for it, in its first opening weekend for the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. So I think give it a couple of weeks, and as the phone keeps going into new markets, I think it's probably going to sell as well, if not better than any previous Apple devices.
All these brands and others are fighting for a share of South Africa's constantly growing smartphone market. And possibly social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, which allows people to text for free, contributes to the rise of the smartphone market in South Africa.
In 2014, we also saw the growth of e-commerce in Africa. Nigeria's Jumia grew its footprint, and OLX is now available in more countries on the continent. This happens because more people have internet access now. In the next insert, we spend time at the offices of one of the largest e-commerce companies in the world, and that is OLX in Kenya.
Today, we've all got our favorite online shopping platform.
Jumia.
Rupu. There has been a revolution in how we buy. Every year, we do more and more shopping online. And one company has led the way, online exchange, commonly known as OLX. OLX was ranked as the buyer's favorite website to purchase goods online in a VentureBurn.com's article. Priscilla Mohio is the head of marketing in OLX Kenya.
We also see a lot of backing from the government in terms of promoting the internet connectivity in Kenya. Recently, is it last year, that they launched the National Broadband Strategy, and that seeks to promote internet connectivity even in the rural areas. ICT Board, I don't know if you're aware, that ICT Board have launched what they call the Pasha Villages or Pasha Centers, which is like a cyber cafe in the rural areas, and we also seek to partner with them at some point.
The website provides a more local service on a global level. The company was founded in March 2006, and as of January 2009, it became available in 96 countries and in 40 languages. In Africa, it has a physical presence in Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. But the site is also available in Uganda, Tanzania, Senegal, Zimbabwe, Angola, and Mauritius. According to the Communication Commission of Kenya, 21.3 million users have access to the internet in Kenya alone in a 2013 report.
One of the advantages of online trading is that most of the people are now connected to the online, and most of the people, of course, are computer literate. Also, the target group that we mostly target are people who are using the online infrastructural systems. So it is convenient, it is faster, and it is also cheap.
In November 2012, research by Cisco Systems estimated that global e-commerce will increase to 13.5% annually over the next 3 years and reach an estimated $1.4 trillion in 2015.
After the break, we'll chat to some people working in the technology field about their 2015 tech and social media predictions. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email.
We kick off this week's show by seeing how Kenyans are paying tribute to the victims, as well as not only how they've coped, but how they returned stronger after the attacks.
Last year, images of the 4-day Westgate Mall attack saturated front pages.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, artists have assembled to celebrate the peace this war-torn country has not had in a long time.
No conflict that can't be solved without a conversation.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Welcome back. As we're looking back in the year, we asked the Mail and Guardian's social media editor, Thembiso Sithole, what he thinks were some of the biggest trending topics in social media in South Africa this year. We also chatted to Daryl Linnington from IT News Africa about some of the biggest tech stories to emerge out of Africa in 2014.
Oscar Pistorius, the Oscar trial hashtag was trending both South Africa and international, where people, of course, were actually following the court case on Twitter and expressing their views. So it's one of those trends which was so big on social media. Not forgetting, of course, the elections that took place on May 7 this year, of which resulted to the EFF going to parliament, the disruptions that took place, hashtag bring back our money, pay back our money, was one of those trends which was trending on social media. The memes which were there also. And another trend which we saw this year, my highlight was the Senzo Meyiwa saga, where we saw, he was shot, of course, but Kelly Kumalo saga, where he refused to hand over the belonging to Senzo Meyiwa.
When it comes to the online space, I do think that a lot of retailers are realizing the power of M-Pesa and mobile money. It is a platform that allows for unbanked Africans to access these websites as well as obtain the goods that they need. especially during like the festive season and holidays and all of that. When going out, it's so much easier to pay for something online.
It was trending load shedding where people are not happy about it. And going in Africa, of course, bring back our girls. We still need those girls. It was another trend which was trending. And Boko Haram, of which, of course, lately 54 Nigerian soldiers were actually sentenced to death simply because they refused actually to work to get the Boko Haram, complaining that they don't have enough equipment to fight Boko Haram.
Africa's booming when it comes to tech trends. We're seeing a lot of startup companies come up, especially in Nigeria and Ghana. These startups are looking to solve issues in Africa rather than assist with them.
And not forgetting some of those trends within the elections, the ANC, not forgetting the conference that will be taking place in June, the Helen Zille conference, elective conference, with the elect another leader or would she stay in power. Those are some of the trends that actually we should look forward into, not forgetting the AFCON that's taking place in next year in 2015.
With the rise of e-commerce in Africa, I can see a lot of companies looking at the potential of the $30 or the $50 smartphone. This device initially allows consumers who can't afford feature phones or fancy smartphones the ability to access the internet, access social media, and get onto online platforms where they can purchase from retailers, as well as use platforms like mobile money, M-Pesa, and that sort of thing.
To continue the discussion on this, we're joined by George Kalebaila, who is the Senior Research Manager for Telecoms and Digital Media for Africa at the International Data Corporation. Hello, and thank you for being a part of our network.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
E-commerce is rising in Africa. It's a story we're hearing over and over again. What can be attributed to this?
I think some of the stories that you ran before actually mentioned some of this. One, we're seeing explosion. Africa is basically a mobile, continent. So we're seeing an acceleration in smartphone penetration, internet penetration, and also the landing of many undersea cables, which is bringing the cost of internet, down. So all these things, and also some of the clever ways that some of these online e-commerce, sites are solving some of the pertinent issues like logistics, where you have to pay on delivery instead of paying with your credit card and all that stuff. So all this innovation that we started seeing to localize some of the business models is actually having a positive impact on e-commerce in Africa.
Are they incorporating services like M-Pesa, for example?
I think that's the next wave of innovation. I think one of your commentators there mentioned it, especially in East Africa. I think because M-Pesa has become part of the day-to-day transactions in Kenya, I think the next step is actually to seamlessly now transform this into also a payment mechanism for online. Because most of the people, as we know, in Africa are not banked and they do not have credit facilities. So having a mechanism of paying online using M-Pesa or mobile money, that is really going to be a great, drive for next year and the future years to come.
As the International Data Corporation, what else has been on your radar in 2014?
Yeah. What we are actually seeing is that governments that, espouse ICT and make ICT agenda as part of their development agenda are going to start accelerating, and ICT will be contributing quite heavily to their GDP. We've already seen in Nigeria where after they rebased their GDP, now ICT contributes about 8.7% to their GDP. In Kenya, it sits about 12%. Of course, in South Africa, because we have quite a vibrant economy, it's about 5.5. But other areas, what we've started seeing is that countries that put ICT at the forefront of development, they are really starting to get the benefits, of those, policies.
Are African governments then creating those policies? Are they working towards that?
Absolutely. We've seen a lot of policy, agendas. We saw a broadband, policy. One of your commentators looked at it in Kenya. actually Kenya is a very good example because now Wi-Fi is very much, part of the, day-to-day, happenings in the economy. I was, recently I was in Kenya, and from the airport to the hotel, I had seamless Wi-Fi in the car. And this is because of that national broadband that has been, espoused. Nigeria the same way. I think we are starting to see that also in South Africa, some of the municipalities offering free Wi-Fi, like Cape Town and Swane. And I think that's the way to go because it, increases the digital inclusion and, make people be connected and tap into the resources of the economy.
In 2015, what are you looking at?
Security is going to be also a very big thing, especially because of the plethora of platforms that people can use to access the internet, smartphones. In the past, if you just secured your LAN network, that was all. But right now, most of the organizations are also extending their business processes to smartphones. So that has become now also a very big headache for most of the operators to also safeguard, smartphone, communication. So security will be quite a big thing.
Security, a big thing in 2015. George Kalebaila, thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight.
Pleasure is mine.
George Kalebaila from the International Data Corporation. And that's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. We'll leave you with a YouTube video of Jib Jab as they animate some of those iconic moments of 2014. From Ms. Pumela Lezondi and the rest of the network team, see you in 2015.
2014, what a year, let's reminisce and raise a glass. Here's to priceless memories.
Like me and my colossal.
The rise of ISIS caused a crisis. Russia made big power play. We massacred the Democrats. But who needs Congress anyway? Ferguson blazed up with rage. We trembled as Ebola spread. We smoked some legal reefer. And we dumped ice buckets on our heads. On birth control, we all said no. We canceled every Cosby show. In 2014, Leno left. I said goodbye, Colbert Report.
I was all about that base.
I wasn't famous anymore. Scandal rocked the NFL. Retired the night, we called it quits. Justin Bieber got arrested. Jay-Z had his greatest hits. Outer space was cool and trendy.
Someone hacked our private news.
Pharrell was happy, Al was weird, and Marvel's Thor was growing boobs. We said so long, it's sad we're gone. But my poetry's forever. And our comedy lives on. Everybody. Anaconda, iPhone 6, Malaysia, potato salad.